It's another episode of the High Achieving Female Podcast powered by No. It is your host, Sarah Benkin-Fashi here, founder and CEO of No. Today's episode is amazing. I am learning so much from Souad. Souad is the founder of Open Arms Surrogacy. If you have questions, you've been wanting a little bit more about the process, we're going over egg donation, we're going over surrogacy, what it looks like, how much it costs, how you can do it, how you can be on the receiving end. So many details. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to the High Achieving Female Podcast powered by No, where we believe high achieving female leaders deserve to be known. Here, you're going to get the tips, tools, and inspiration you need to network, grow, scale, and balance your business, career, and life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the High Achieving Female Podcast, powered by No. Today is an exciting episode. It's a little bit different. I'm really excited, and I think you will be too. We're talking to Souad, who is the founder and CEO of Open Arms Surrogacy. What an amazing concept. What an amazing time to really discuss this issue, disease, as she likes to call it. Souad, thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today because I have so many questions, and I know our listeners probably have so many questions around the surrogacy topic. So you've been in business you're approaching 20 years. So you are really probably one of the pioneers in this industry.
20 years. It went by really fast. Yeah, I started Open Arms Surrogacy in June of 2003. So this June coming up will be 2 decades.
So before we go into all of the ins and outs, the price, how you do it, who she is, same sex, all of the things. Tell me just a little bit about you and how you entered into this industry.
Well, my name is Souad Dreyfus. I'm originally from Morocco, migrated into the United States in 1998, built my way up, have worked for a fertility specialist for 3 years. And that's a whole nother podcast, really how things worked out and fell into place for me to be part of his team. After 3 years, I learned all I needed to learn in his practice and discovered really that fertility clinics are amazing at providing the medical care, but there is an emotional aspect to this process that intended parents cannot really find it at a fertility clinic. So I started Open Arms in 2003, and my drive was to be the support that my intended parents, surrogates, and egg donor needed while going through this process. I've always said that infertility can be a very private struggle, not something that you talk about often. So we wanted to provide a platform that felt safe to the intended parents that are seeking to complete their family through a third party, whether an egg donor, a surrogate mother, a sperm donor, or a combination of all, and just feel like they are supported throughout this journey. And that's how Open Arms started.
I love that story. And so you know what it's like being on the infertility clinic side and sought to do something different. And even though we see, surrogacy being more aware of it through things like social media and our attachment to being able to look at celebrities and things like that, it's still a very private experience and still very taboo in some cultures, right? So you're really holding the emotions of your clients.
Absolutely. And to your point, more and more we are hearing about surrogacy, and thankfully, because most celebrities have done it, so a lot of them came forward with how they conceived their children and using a surrogate mother to do so. So it became more the awareness is out there about what surrogacy is. I'd love to see a little bit more about egg donation. We are seeing women past their 40s into early 50s using egg donors, but they're not coming forward with that. And there is just still a stigma around using an egg donor and a stigma around not being able to conceive using your own eggs, which shouldn't really be there. However, to your point, it's still new and it's still strange, and people are still, even though if when you think about it, first test tube baby was in 1978. That
Right.
was the first IVF cycle, first IVF journey. So after that, IVF using an egg donor, IVF using a surrogate, or a combination of both. But to date, even my surrogate moms will, when they are pregnant with someone's obviously child, they're always asked, how could you do that? How can you give up the baby? People are amazed by the process, but they don't really know a whole lot about it.
Yeah, so let's go into that a little bit more. So does your agency do both, work with egg donors and work with like the surrogate moms?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So our the core of what we do is recruit egg donors and recruit surrogate mothers and vet them to make sure that they are suitable for the process, and match them with intended parents that are looking to complete their family through egg donation and or surrogacy.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So let's break this into really two because I'm interested in both of these. So let's talk a little bit about an egg donor, because there are some women here who may be listening and they've thought about it or they've researched it. How does one become an egg donor? What does her profile look like? And really, what is the responsibility?
Okay, so I always say, whether an egg donor or a surrogate mother, our candidates are like superheroes in our eyes, because for a woman to give of herself to the extent to help another family is always amazing to me, and it's something that we always celebrate. Egg donors usually are between the age of 21 and 30 years old. Sometimes we go to 32 and 34, but we really keep it in the 20s, and the max probably is a 30-year-old. They have to be height weight proportionate, so the BMI needs to be healthy. They have to be educated. They cannot be adopted, because we have to be able to get an idea about their bloodline and about their family history, and their medical history is very important because the genetic component is transferred into the intended parents. So knowing whether there is any diseases or any issues in the family is very important for the intended parents to know. No smoking, no drinking, no criminal background. Obviously, drinking, we all like have a drink here and there, but we're talking about more excessive in this
Right.
case. Not a carrier of any genetic diseases that will be maybe transferred onto the baby. And I would say these are the core requirements in our egg donors.
That's really great to know. And so you handle the recruitment and maybe do you handle the matching part of this?
Yes, we do the whole process. So if an egg donor is interested in becoming one, we really sit with her to understand why she wants to become an egg donor. The why is always important, and it shows the commitment of the person. And we explain the process, because while there is this romantic notion that you are going to help a couple, there
Yeah.
is a lot that's going to be involved and a lot that's going to be asked of the donor, from attending appointments, passing psychological evaluation, medical evaluation, legal contract, travel may be required, absolutely taking medication to make sure that she's producing enough follicles. So there is a lot that's involved, and we want to make sure that the egg donor is aware of what is required of her before committing to this process. And of course, they
Absolutely.
will be compensated for their time and effort.
Right. That's what I was going to say. So it's not like I can just sign up and be an egg donor and then show up tomorrow to the clinic and then have my eggs retrieved. It doesn't.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like some people would say, well, how long does it take? Well, on average, probably an egg donation cycle will take anywhere between 2 to 4 months
Wow.
from
Okay.
beginning to end, because, like I said, we have to do quite a bit of screening to make sure that this person is qualified to move forward with the process.
And you mentioned compensation. What does what does compensation look like?
Well, the compensation for an egg donor can be anywhere, for a first-time egg donor, anywhere between $6,000 and $8,000, and then it goes up from there depending on how many times she has done egg donation successfully.
Okay, so there's more. It's better. So it's better if you've been able to do it successfully more than
If
once.
you have done egg donation before, you become, an experienced egg donor, which gives the intended parents a little bit of
Mhm.
assurance that you have gone through the process, you know what to expect. you did show up to your appointments, and we had a successful outcome from your egg donation, we are able to say, okay, we were able to retrieve the number of eggs. This is how many fertilized, whether we had a pregnancy with this egg donation or not. So that kind of like justify an increase in compensation and provide the assurance that the parents need working with someone who's done it before.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, total sense. And if someone was interested in, learning more about the process, you're based out of like the Sarasota, Southwest Florida area, but are you working with clients all over?
We are all over the United States for our egg donors and our surrogates moms, and we work internationally as well for our intended parents. So our clients come to us from all over the world, but our surrogates and our egg donors must be within the United States.
Wow. Okay, this is really good information. And let's flip over to surrogacy a little bit because this is sort of like a hot topic right now, or at least I feel like it is. I'm seeing it everywhere. Like we were talking about it, we see celebrities, we're seeing influencers now, and we're really seeing this as an alternative to, going the traditional infertility routes of IVF and like failed IVF and just some emotional, like you said, the emotional side of all the things that come to question with these moms, right? Or desirable moms. So let's talk a little bit about the whole surrogacy process.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a lot more complicated than egg donation. These are for a surrogate, for a person, for a woman to become a surrogate mother. She must be a mom herself already. She must have given birth before with no complications. So that's the main requirement.
Oh.
So for you to carry for someone else, you must know what it feels like to be pregnant and know what to expect to give birth and all of that. We can't really work with someone who has never given birth before. You also have to be height weight proportionate. The BMI is very important going through this process because a higher BMI might cause complication with this pregnancy, like gestational diabetes, preeclampsia. So we try to avoid those things. You also have to have custody of your own children. You don't have to necessarily be married, but it's important that you have some sort of support system going into this. No criminal background is also very important. So we do have criminal background on our surrogates and their partner, and no smoking. Like I mentioned before, no complications with prior pregnancies. So these and knowing that you're doing it for all the right reasons. The compensation is very important, but cannot be the main drive to why you're becoming a surrogate mom. There has to be more when you're doing this because it's just that important to the intended parents as well. With the surrogate, we try to sit with why she's wanting to be a surrogate and who is she looking to be matched with. And we try to match her with someone who's like-minded. So, for example, we have surrogates that are strictly wanting to work with heterosexual couples. So we honor that. We have surrogates that are not open to doing an abortion if there is abnormalities. So we honor that. So we match them with someone like-minded. So it goes on a deeper level in finding someone that fits what the surrogate is looking for or what the parents to be are looking for, as this journey has to go on for the next beyond the 9 months, really. So on average, a surrogacy journey will take 1.5 to 2 years when it's all said and done.
Wow. Because you have the pre, the prep, and then the post.
Exactly. So we have to make sure that you are approved for this process, which involved in gathering all of your medical record from previous pregnancies and reviewing them, running a drug screening, doing a criminal background, a recent pap smear. All of these things can take a lot of time. And then, of course, running psychological screening to make sure that you are grounded and mature and doing this for all the right reasons. And you have not experienced any postpartum depression before. We really don't want to trigger anything that might be troublesome for the surrogate or the pregnancy.
What does you talk about the profile, like the medical profile, the background profile of what these the surrogates what they look like, but talk a little bit about their personality. Talk about some of the stories, like the human factor of like why are they telling you that they want to do it? Do they see it as their duty? Like what is like the actual like personality of a surrogate?
Yeah, the why is always my favorite when it comes to surrogate moms. Like I said, it cannot be just the compensation. So most of the time what we hear is that these women really enjoyed being pregnant, and they don't want to have any more of their own. So this was a win-win for them, where they can get pregnant and help a couple have the family that they want and also be compensated in the process. That is the biggest why that we always hear about. One of the I still remember two stories that were very emotional throughout my journey here with Open Arms. And one of them was that one of our surrogates, initially she had an abortion, and it's something that's really never sat well with her. So she decided to do surrogacy because in her mind she took a life and she wanted to give one back. And the reason it stayed with me is when we transferred two embryos to the surrogate, she ended up pregnant with triplets. So I'm like, God has a sixth sense of humor sometimes. So you had one abortion, you gave three back. So that was really, really
Wow.
interesting. And even the compensation, she asked that half of the compensation be donated to her church. To me, that's very, very moving. I also had a surrogate mom whose best friend unfortunately died giving birth. And she knew that she wasn't supposed to be pregnant, but she could not afford surrogacy. So she took the risk anyway.
Oh my
And
goodness.
that was her why. That was her why. She's like, I never want a woman who's not able to conceive to go ahead and do it and risk it all for the sake of having child when you do have options. And you do have options. Surrogacy is an amazing option to have your own genetic and biological child, you know, through
My
this
God.
the IVF process.
I love this because there's a human factor. And we sometimes
Absolutely.
we think about, oh, the parents who are on the receiving side, but it means so much to
Oh,
the
yes.
person who's actually carrying their child, right? It's like giving a life. And I love
Absolutely.
that you shared those stories. Those gave me chills. But I have to ask you this. Does anyone ever change their mind? The mom, like the surrogacy mom, like, right? Does she and does she ever, and she's probably not referred to as a mom, but like what does she ever change her mind? How do you prevent that? What does that look like?
We refer to her as a surrogate mom. So we always
Okay.
honor the mom in this process by referring to her as mom and the surrogate as a surrogate or a gestational carrier.
Okay.
Um, and it's just psychologically we're conditioning everybody involved that you are a carrier, you are a surrogate mother, but there is an actual mom in this process. And no, thankfully, in 20 years, knock on wood, I've never had a surrogate that changed her mind, assuming you're talking about after the birth of
Mhm.
the baby and wanting to keep the baby. And the reason being is back into the intake process and into the screening process, we are making sure that these women are doing it for all the right reasons. We are making sure that these surrogates have children of their own. So if they are capable of having their own, what's the point of keeping somebody else's child?
Right.
We are making sure that they are psychologically sound to do this process, and we are supporting them throughout this journey, constantly reminding them that this is a surrogacy process and this is not their baby. There's also obviously legal agreements between the surrogate mother and the intended parents that is enforceable by law. And in Florida, the intended parents are considered the parents of the baby from the moment of conception. So that means the moment we have an embryo, once we fertilize the eggs with the sperm, they're considered the parent's baby. So the surrogate has no legal ground to keep the child.
Okay, that's really helpful. I just asked because if someone is actually interested in embarking on this journey as a parent, that might be one of their fears, right?
Oh,
Like,
it's absolutely a fear. It's absolutely in the forefront, and you worry about that. How because you're carrying the baby for 9 months, so
right.
you're always worried about an attachment to the baby, and a small attachment is a healthy one. It's okay. We want surrogate to care for the baby, and we want her to do right by this pregnancy. So I welcome a healthy attachment to the baby in a way that still honors the parents in this process, for sure.
Do the parents meet her? Do they spend time with her?
Absolutely, absolutely. They must meet. While that's not required with the egg donors, and most of the time it's anonymous, you donate to the parents and you get
Right.
compensated, and that's it. When it comes to surrogacy, you must meet your surrogate and you must have a relationship with her throughout this process.
And And a lot of times these the surrogates are not in, they're not in the same location. Is that right?
Sometimes they are, sometimes, oftentimes they're not.
And so when it's like birthing time, then the parents are flying
That is
to
correct. And we
yeah,
arrange for
okay.
all of that prior to. So imagine that we are very hands-on, keeping a pulse on the pregnancy. With every appointment she goes to, we understand that we're getting closer to the birth, and we make all of the arrangements with the hospital, with their case management, with their head nurse, and we prep a birth plan for both the surrogates and the intended parents to let them know what the expectations are and what's coming up. So we kind of have an idea about when the birth might take place. And if it's a C-section, it's far more convenient because
Mhm.
the parents can be there. But if it's not, I always encourage my parents to be there probably about a week prior to the due date and stay in the area so they don't miss the birth.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so if there is a parent who is hopeful and they've been going through the process of the fertility treatments and it just hasn't been working, they're very, very, very frustrated and they want to look to surrogacy as an option. What does that process look like for a hopeful parent?
It's very streamlined, but for my clients, usually we start by scheduling a Zoom meeting to get to understand where they've been, what they're looking for, what the expectations are, and so we can manage those properly as we start kind of helping them on their journey, whether they need an egg donor, a surrogate mother, or a combination of both. We discuss their views on abortion, on reduction, on what the ideal surrogate look like, because that's important to us, and understand just where they've been and where they're going and what that looked like for them. We kind of manage the whole process. If they have a fertility clinic, we'll work hand in hand with them. And if they don't, we offer referrals to fertility specialists. We arrange for them to have complimentary consultations until they find the right fertility doctor to work with, and walk them through the whole process from beginning to end.
Oh, I love that you're talking about this. So what is this? What does like the team of doctors or professionals look like? So they're coming to you to ultimately help them match and qualify and find the person. And
Right.
then what does that process also look like? So they come to you and then are they working there? I'm assuming they're working like with the surrogate mom's OBGYN and then is there
So there's a lot
fertility?
of,
Like
yeah, so
what's the
there's a
team
lot
look
of
like?
Yeah, there is a huge team. It takes an army to have this baby for sure. So aside from us as the agency, and we are the constant professionals that are involved with them from beginning to end, as professionals will come and go throughout this process, we remain their constant. So initially will be a fertility clinic where we are going to do the IVF process and screen the surrogate and create the embryos. In this process, we have to have psychological screening done by a psychologist that are familiar with third-party reproduction. We have to have reproductive attorneys who draft contracts between the surrogate and the intended parents, someone who's really familiar with surrogacy laws in that state. We have to have bonded and insured escrow agents to hold the funds of the surrogate as a third party, so the surrogate feels comfortable knowing that her money is safe, and if there's any issues and whatnot, the compensation is held with a third party. So these are some of the professionals. And
Wow.
of course, when she is pregnant, we move into the OB care. So we have to have an OBGYN and then a hospital that have at least a level 2 NICU just in case the baby has any issues. We also work hand in hand with insurance professionals to make sure that the insurance that the surrogate has is surrogacy friendly, and if she doesn't have insurance, to secure a policy for her. So there is really an army of professionals that we work with throughout this process, surrogacy and egg donation.
Wow, it sounds like an army for sure. But for these parents, I mean, I'm sure they're just thinking like anything. I will do anything. There is, the desire and the dream and the hopes are there. And so, if they're probably at a point where they've tried so many things that they're just ready for something to work.
Exactly.
And we talked a little bit about the cost of this process it varies because it can depend on what you need and, the different levels of things. But you said this could be upwards of 150,000. What's the average cost? So, or what are some of the things that would make the fees waiver?
A lot that makes the fee really vary. So it's really hard for us usually to give an estimate until we have a surrogate mom or until we have an egg donor. It's upward of 150 if they're using an egg donor and a surrogate mom. But what if they just need an egg donor and the mom is able to carry her own pregnancy? She's just not able to use her own eggs. That's far, far less costly of a process. What if she needs just a surrogate mother, but she's capable of using her own eggs? What if she is needing both a surrogate and egg donor and a sperm donor in that process? Where is the surrogate in connection with the fertility clinic? Do we need to add travel costs into this quote, or is she local to the fertility clinic? Is this her first time being a surrogate or an egg donor, or is it a second time? Because that will drive the compensation up. So does she have health insurance, or do we need to buy an insurance policy?
Right.
All these things will affect the cost drastically. So that's when we sit with the intended parents and understand where they're at. And once we have secured an egg donor or a surrogate, we're able to give more of a precise quote on how much things might cost.
How does this work if, because I don't want to say it's like normalized now, but it's definitely an option I think more women are looking at. And, if for $150,000, this is not, something that just anyone can do. Are there financing options? I know we talked offline about some insurance companies and businesses are offering allowances now. How, and I know this probably, depends on the person, but can an upper middle class person making a solid wage but isn't overly wealthy afford this? And how do you make that, affordable?
The two things I would love to touch on with your question, which is obviously very important, is one, surrogacy has been in the news as something only celebrities do. But in my experience, while we did handle a few cases that are of a high profile, the backbone of my business is everyday people that are just trying to have a family. And it's just amazing how much you can do when you want to be a parent. The second part is that not everybody goes into egg donation and surrogacy without having considered adoption as well. A lot of people, well, if you're going to go this route, why not adopt? Right. Many of my clients have actually been on the list, on a waiting list for adoption with no success before they decided to just take the route of egg donation, sperm donation, and surrogacy. So it's very important to note also that this process is very much a cash pay process. Most insurance don't cover it. We're noticing more and more that big companies are putting allowances aside for their employees to use toward, IVF. But not many, not nearly enough. To your point, you were saying that from your experience, someone offering at least $35,000. That's great start. Is it all they are going to need? No, but that will put a good dent into it. So most people, they will lean on either savings, they lean on parents to help, they lean on financial aid, on loans, on second mortgage, maybe a home equity line, and just really get creative with the process. Also, the process doesn't have to be done all at once. So if you need an egg donor and a surrogate, perhaps you could start with an egg donor, finish that process, create your embryos, freeze them, and then take a breather in between. And maybe a year or two later, start the surrogacy process. And those are some of the creative ways my clients have been able to afford to do this.
Wow, that is really, really helpful. And I'm sure some of our listeners, I just feel like you've educated me this process, because as much as we maybe are seeing more and more of it, there's still not a lot of really solid information out there. And so I feel like you sharing with our community and has been incredible. We also featured you in our recent issue of No Magazine, where we did a one-on-one. We'll be working with you over the next year and just really learning a little bit more about this process and your story, and finding out how women can get involved in on either end, whether it's through donation or accepting donation, or being a parent, or being a surrogate mom. Let's talk to you before we wrap up. I do want to talk a little bit about same-sex couples. So do you also work with like sperm donors? I know we talk about egg donation, but like, how do you, like, if one, like, a woman wanted to be pregnant, how does that work?
So, I mean, and we do work with single parents as well, single moms, single dads. While I do not provide that service, I do have resources, and I walk my clients toward, with helping them and assisting them in finding a sperm bank, and coordinated that with the clinic. So once they find the sperm donor, that sperm is actually transferred into the clinic for when we're ready for the IVF process. So it's something that I do not offer, but I have plenty of resources that I make available to my clients. To your point, although there isn't enough awareness about infertility, it is always mind-blowing to me to know that it's 1 out of 6 that suffer from infertility. So the likelihood of someone knowing someone who is going through this process is huge. And I love the opportunity, especially with Mother's Day coming up next month, to draft that article about how do we support women that are going through this process and struggling with infertility during a holiday that is all about celebrating moms and children and motherhood. And I'm really excited for that to roll out, and for people to read it, so they can just understand that, questions like just relax, it's going to happen, or, those comments, sometimes they hit deep someone who has been trying for years.
Yes, for sure. Tell us how people can contact you and find out more about you and your services, if someone listening to this is interested and inquiring.
Yeah, absolutely. So our phone number, well, the agency is Open Arms Surrogacy, and our website is openarmssurrogacy.com. And our phone number is 941-741-4994. So yeah, either check out the website, take a look. There is a contact us section. Let us know how we can help, whether it being an intended parent, or wanting to become a surrogate mom and help a couple, or an egg donor, or just to learn about the process and be more aware. I do not mind it at all. I love spreading awareness about what we do and how we can, better assist our community, for sure.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Souad, how many families have you helped in the last 20 years?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. I never stop long enough to count them. But we have just the idea of blessing intended parents from all over the world. We have babies in Argentina and in France and in Spain, in Chile, in Brazil, in Portugal, in China, and of course within the United States. And the best time of the year is obviously Christmas for us, when we get these pictures still, from intended parents sending their thank you. And it's incredible to be able to touch people's life the way we do. It's just, it never gets old, really. 20 years later, it never gets old.
Amazing. You and your agency are doing good work. And
thank you.
Thank you so much for just being a service like this for the world. This is great. And thank you so much for being on our podcast, ladies. If you are listening to this and you want more information, please go see Open Arms Surrogacy. They are definitely here to help. And I feel like I know so much more than than before when we started. So thank you so much for educating me and our audience. And we look forward to continuing to catch up with you.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the High Achieving Female Podcast, powered by No, where we believe it's time for high achieving women like you to be seen, heard, and recognized. Until next time, remember, you deserve to be known.